Two guys, same city, same age, similar incomes over their careers. One of them built real wealth, the other built the perfect illusion of it. One drives a paid-off Camry and takes 3 real vacations a year. The other leases a BMW and can't afford a surprise $400 expense. Same paycheck. Completely different futures. What's the difference? It's not how much they earn. It's the traps they avoided. Here's something nobody warns you about. The hardest part of building wealth isn't earning the money, it's keeping it once you have it. The game changes the moment your net worth crosses 6 figures. New risks show up. New temptations appear. New mistakes become available. It's like driving a race car. At 30 miles per hour, a mistake means a fender bender. At 150 miles per hour, the same mistake means a funeral. Today we're going through 10 specific traps that keep high earners from building real wealth. Trap 1. The consumption cascade. It's the quietest wealth killer because every decision feels justified in the moment. You get a raise. You upgrade your apartment. Now your furniture looks cheap. So you buy new furniture. Now your car doesn't match. So you lease something nicer. Each step seems reasonable alone. There's a name for this. The Diderot effect. A French philosopher received a beautiful scarlet dressing gown as a gift. Suddenly his desk looked shabby next to the gown, then his chair, then his rug. He ended up in debt, replacing everything to match one gift. Here's the data that should scare you. Among households earning $250,000 to $500,000, roughly 43% live paycheck to paycheck. For those making over $500,000, it's still nearly 40%. The problem isn't what they earn, it's what they spend. The fix is simple. When your income goes up, your savings rate goes up first. Before you see $1 of the raise, if you get a $15,000 raise, $8,000 goes into investments automatically. That one rule is probably worth $400,000 over a career. Trap 2. The single stock seduction. This one hits people who've actually been successful, which makes it more dangerous. You bought something, a stock, your company's equity, and it went up a lot. Now you're in a relationship with this asset. Selling feels like betrayal. The position keeps growing as a percentage of everything you own. You are now technically gambling. You just don't feel like you are because it's worked so far. Intel was one of the most celebrated technology companies in the year 2000. It peaked at around $75 a share. Within 22 days, it dropped 36%. By late 2002, it was sitting at $12, an 82% decline. It still hasn't recovered to its year 2000 high. JP Morgan analyzed 13,000 companies and found that 40% suffered a permanent decline of 70% or more from their peak. The rule most portfolio managers agree on: no single position above 10% of your portfolio. Most say 5% is safer. The attachment is the trap, not the asset. Trap 3. Tax inefficiency. The slow bleed that nobody notices until April. You made $60,000 on a trade. You owe $24,000 in taxes, not because you did anything wrong, because you sold in month 11 instead of month 13. That one decision cost you nearly $10,000 in unnecessary taxes. Morningstar found that the average equity mutual fund lost 1.48% of its returns annually to taxes. Compounded over 20 years, that's roughly a 35% reduction in ending wealth. On a $500,000 portfolio, that's $175,000 gone to poor tax management. The most common mistakes: holding high dividend stocks in a taxable brokerage instead of an IRA. Every dividend becomes a taxable event, not harvesting losses, and selling before holding a full year. Short-term gains are taxed up to 43.4%. Long-term gains max out at 23.8%. Taxes are almost certainly your single largest annual expense, bigger than your mortgage. The wealthy don't always earn more. They just make sure the IRS takes as little as legally possible. Trap 4. Overconfidence after early success. You had 2 good years. The stocks you picked went up. Your brain filed this under "I'm good at this." Psychologists call it self-attribution bias. We credit gains to skill and losses to bad luck. In investing, that wiring is expensive. One great year in a bull market, and suddenly you're moving into options, buying on margin, going from a diversified portfolio to 5 names you believe in. The boring index fund becomes a trading account. Researchers tracked 20,000 day traders. Among those who persisted for more than 300 days, 97% lost money. Only 17 individuals earned more than minimum wage. A bull market is not feedback. When the entire market is up 25% and your portfolio is up 25%, that tells you nothing about your skill. The most effective strategy for most people is aggressively boring. Broad index funds, automatic contributions, minimal intervention. The moment investing starts feeling exciting, that's a warning signal, not an invitation. Trap 5. Working too much. Nobody frames this as a financial trap, but it absolutely is. There's a point where your time becomes worth significantly more than your marginal labor, and most people blow right past that moment because working hard is what got them here. $5 million at 5% generates $250,000 a year. That's $684 a day, every day, weekends, holidays. At that threshold, every additional hour you work needs to justify itself against $684 in passive daily income. A palliative care nurse documented the 5 most common regrets of the dying. Number 2, expressed by virtually every male patient. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Not, I wish I'd earned more. Not, I wish I'd taken bigger risks. The question worth sitting with is simple. What is your time actually worth now compared to when you started? If that number hasn't changed how you allocate your hours, you're leaving the most valuable thing you have on the table. Trap 6. The illiquid millionaire. Households with net worth between $1 million and $2 million have 66% of their wealth locked in illiquid assets, primarily home equity and retirement accounts. 2/3 of what they have, they cannot access without penalties or waiting years. You can't move fast on an opportunity because everything you own is either locked in a house, sitting in a retirement account you'll pay 10% to touch early, or committed to a private deal with a 5-year lockup. You're rich in theory. You're illiquid in practice. The practical rule: 3 to 6 months of essential expenses in actual liquid cash. Not invested, not in a CD liquid. Beyond that, if you can't access 15 to 20% of your net worth within 30 days, you need a liquidity audit. Being technically wealthy while practically cash constrained is not a success story. It's just a nicer looking version of the same trap. Trap 7. Neglecting insurance as your assets grow. This isn't exciting to talk about, which is exactly why it causes the damage it does. As your net worth grows, you become a more valuable target in litigation. This isn't paranoia, it's math. A recent survey found that 21% of high net worth households carry 0 umbrella liability insurance. Meanwhile, 13% of personal injury awards now exceed $1 million. One car accident, one guest who slips at a party, one bad situation, and a judgment reaches past your auto and homeowner's limits straight into your investment portfolio. An umbrella policy adds $1 million in coverage for $300 to $600 a year. For a $5 million policy, $800 to $1,200 annually. That's a rounding error on a meaningful portfolio. And it's the policy standing between a bad day and a catastrophic one. None of these are complicated. They get skipped because they're not exciting. And nobody reminds you to revisit them until something goes wrong. Trap 8. Confusing owning many things with being diversified. You own 6 ETFs. 4 of them are U.S. large-cap funds with nearly identical holdings. You feel diversified. You are not diversified. You are concentrated with extra steps. The deeper problem is correlation. In 2008, pairwise correlations spiked from 40% to nearly 70%. Everything moved together when it mattered most. Owning small cap alongside large cap didn't help. International didn't help. Real diversification means assets that don't respond to the same stressors. David Swensen ran Yale's endowment for 36 years, averaging 13.7% returns. His core insight, genuine diversification across uncorrelated assets reduces long-term risk. Not the number of tickers, the correlation between them. You don't need an institutional portfolio, but owning international exposure, some real assets, and thinking about what actually moves independently. That's the difference between real diversification and its very convincing imitation. Trap 9. Panic selling when the numbers get enormous. This trap gets worse as you get wealthier. When your portfolio was $40,000 and it dropped 20%, you lost $8,000. You could breathe through it. When your portfolio is $2 million and it drops 20%, you've lost $400,000. Your brain has no framework for processing that number calmly. Loss aversion scales with the raw dollar number, not with your portfolio's ability to recover. A recent report found that over 20 years, the average investor earned less than half of what a buy and hold index returned. Not to bad investments, not to crashes, to buying when things felt good and selling when they didn't. During the COVID crash, investors pulled $326 billion in a single month. The market bottomed on March 23rd. It rallied 70% over the next 12 months. Every dollar that fled at the low missed the entire recovery. The protection isn't willpower, it's structure. Automate contributions so there's no decision to make during a downturn. Write your plan down before the crash. Set the strategy before the fear arrives. Because once it does, ancient software nearly always loses. Trap 10. No estate plan. This is the trap people defer longest because it requires imagining something nobody wants to imagine, and the deferral costs a fortune. Prince died with an estate valued at $156 million. No will, no trust, no estate plan, 6 years of litigation. 2,700 court filings, $45 million in legal fees, $87 million in taxes, 56% of everything he built consumed by a problem that a proper estate plan would have prevented. A $100,000 estate plan would have saved $87 million. That math is hard to look at. A recent survey found that only 26% of Americans have a will. Even among people with meaningful assets, failure to plan is the norm. A revocable living trust avoids probate. Updated beneficiary designations on your retirement accounts and life insurance override whatever your will says. They cost nothing to change. The Williams Group studied 3,250 wealthy families and found 70% lost their fortune by the second generation. 90% by the third. Building wealth is one skill. Structuring it to survive is an entirely different one. Let me lock this in with a quick recap. 1. The consumption cascade. Save first, spend second. 2. The single stock seduction. No single position above 10%. 3. Tax inefficiency. Hold for a year. Use the right accounts. 4. Overconfidence. A bull market is not feedback. 5. Working too much. Your time is worth more than your labor. 6. The illiquid millionaire. Liquidity matters. 7. Neglecting insurance. $500 can save $500,000. 8. Confusing many things with diversification. Correlation matters more than count. 9. Panic selling. Structure beats willpower. 10. No estate plan. A few thousand today saves millions later. The two guys from the beginning, same income, same starting point. One is worth $1.84 million. The other is worth $312,000. The difference isn't intelligence or luck. It's avoiding the traps. Somewhere in this list, you recognize something. The lifestyle creep, the concentrated position you're attached to, the will you've been meaning to update. That recognition is worth more than everything else in this video. Go fix that one thing, just one. Don't watch another 10 videos first. Go fix it today. If this helped you see something you hadn't seen before, hit that like button. And subscribe if you want more videos about how money actually works. Not the fantasy, the reality. Now drop a comment and tell me, which of these 10 traps have you fallen into? The lifestyle creep? The single stock? The estate plan you've been putting off? Be honest, be specific. I read them, I'll be in there. Thanks for watching. Avoid the traps, build the wealth. See you in the next one.